Real-life stories you might not know. Part 5. What do you want to know about history? 32 men fought each other for one girl on an isolated island. During the Second World War, a Japanese naval ship was attacked by American combat planes and sunk near Anatahan Island. A total of 31 Japanese soldiers survived and made it to Anatahan Island in the Pacific Ocean, where one Japanese couple was living. The couple had been sent to the island on business before the war was initiated. On the island, the couple taught the soldiers how to hunt and farm, even after the war ended. Being a remote island, however, the soldiers and couple had no form of contact with the outside world, so they weren't informed. As they continued living on the island, a series of mysterious incidents began occurring. One day, the captain of the ship was found lifeless in the water, while on another occasion, 2 other soldiers were found dead with gunshot wounds. The mysterious deaths caused a rise in tension among the island's inhabitants, and people began becoming suspicious of each other. It was later found that the wife, Kazuko Higa, was the only woman on the island, which caused conflict amongst the men on the island. Actually, all 31 soldiers fell in love with the woman. A Japanese couple weren't actually together, and when the soldiers found out, they began fighting over her. The husband of wife was searching for his sister on some other island, due to World War, thinking his boss will take care of his wife behind. His boss faked marriage with her, so that most soldier would even think about her. The woman thought of dating the men out of fear, thinking her husband is dead. The men's jealousy and rivalry became worse over time, that they decided to kill her so that the peace could be maintained on the entire island, causing the wife to secretly board a ship and leave the island in 1950. After she left, there were reportedly no more incidents of violence, and the island was peaceful. In 1951, the soldiers were rescued by American forces and were taken back home. The soldiers lived happily and with peace till 1951. Which people prove that humans are capable of changing themselves? Meet Oskar, a successful German businessman. He was greedy. He was a womanizer. He was a member of the Nazi Party. At one point, he was serving as a spy for them. He profited off the war. Even in the deep uncertainty of World War II, Oskar was positioned to live a long, wealthy life, the life of a greedy villain who was an asset to Hitler's army. The first half of his life was not the life lived of a good man, but the second half would be far different. Everything changed when he visited the Plaszow concentration camp. He witnessed firsthand the extermination camps, the torture, and the murder of Jews. He quickly began hiring Jews at his factory. He hired women, children, the disabled, people who were virtually worthless as workers, just to give them exemption from being drafted into the concentration camps. He lobbied Jewish groups to help raise funds to hire more Jews. Often, troops came to summon his employees to concentration camps. He lied to them, bribed them, put his life on the line over and over again to prevent people from being turned into white smoke. Oskar was safe. He didn't have to do anything. He was a member of an elite class. He could have just ridden out the war and moved on, but he didn't. Oskar blew every dollar he owned and is credited with saving the lives of 1,200+ Jews during World War II. His story was the premise for the Oscar-winning film. We like to dice up and divide people as good and evil like they are Disney characters. Easy to digest, easy to fit into a bucket. I've always been a fan of the anti-hero, the guy who doesn't fit the mold, who lives in that gray area of good and evil. It more closely fits what a person really is, what I am and you are. We make mistakes, sometimes terrible mistakes. But we always have a chance to change, to become something different than we once were. Oskar Schindler wasn't a perfect man, but he came up big and did the right thing when it counted. Rather than dying a wealthy man who lived for himself, he died broke so that others could live. His grave is now found in Israel. His Hebrew inscription says, "Righteous among the nations." What if I told you the smartest man alive doesn't work in a lab, doesn't run a Fortune 500 company, and has never even finished college? Meet Chris Langan, a man with a brain so powerful, his IQ has been estimated between 195 and 210, far surpassing Einstein. He was labeled a genius before he could even walk. But instead of a life of fame, fortune, and discovery, Chris spent most of his life working as a bar bouncer. And the reason why is both tragic and eye-opening. Chris Langan was born in 1952 in San Francisco, into a life stacked against him from day one. By 6 months old, he could speak full words. By the age of 10, his vocabulary rivaled that of college students. He skipped grades effortlessly. When he sat for his SAT, years before most teenagers, he scored a perfect 1,600 in half the allotted time, and then took a nap. It seemed like nothing could stop him, but life had other plans. Chris grew up in a painfully unstable home. His mother married several times before he was even 12. One of his stepfathers committed suicide. Another was violently abusive, beating both Chris and his mother. It was a nightmare. And while Chris was naturally strong, so strong that he eventually stood up to his abuser and threw him out of the house, the scars from that childhood never fully healed. Those early traumas shaped him. Chris developed a contempt for authority and formal education. He didn't trust institutions or those in power. He bounced from school to school, unable to find a mentor who truly understood or supported him. Without proper guidance, professional connections, or financial stability, Chris was left stranded in a world that didn't know what to do with a man like him. He dropped out of college, and instead of a career in science or philosophy, he worked as a laborer, a bar bouncer, and eventually a rancher. His staggering intelligence, capable of complex theories about the universe, remained locked away from the world, a mind sharper than almost anyone's, yet largely unheard. Chris Langan's story is a brutal reminder that intelligence alone doesn't guarantee success. It takes opportunity, environment, mentorship, and sometimes sheer luck to turn potential into legacy. Chris wasn't a failure. The system failed him. His life forces us to ask a difficult question. How many geniuses have we lost to poverty, violence, and neglect? How many brilliant minds are out there right now, unheard and unseen, because life dealt them a cruel hand? In the end, it's not just about how smart you are. It's about where you land, who helps you, and whether the world ever bothers to notice. Imagine being 17 years old, fresh out of high school, full of dreams, and one summer night's decision changes your entire life forever. That's exactly what happened to Jarrett Adams, a teenager from the south side of Chicago. In 1998, Adams had just graduated high school. One night, he and two friends snuck out to a college party in Wisconsin. 3 weeks later, a police officer's business card was lodged in his front door. A white girl at the party had accused Adams and his two friends, all black teenagers, of rape. Even though a witness directly contradicted the accuser's story, Adams was arrested and charged. In Wisconsin, 17-year-olds are prosecuted as adults. One of his friends could afford a private lawyer. Adams and the other friend had to rely on public defenders, and that difference would seal their fate. The trial ended in a mistrial when the accuser changed her story. But during the retrial, Adams' court-appointed defender made a disastrous decision, a no-defense strategy, calling no witnesses, presenting no evidence. That single miscalculation cost Adams everything. He was found guilty and sentenced to 28 years in a maximum security prison. Adams was a teenager, terrified and alone, suddenly thrown into a prison full of grown men. It was an out-of-body experience, he later said. But one conversation with a fellow inmate would change his mindset forever. An older prisoner told him, "Innocent men don't hang out in the yard. They're in the law library." From that day on, Adams devoted himself to studying the law, reading every legal book he could find. He learned about constitutional rights, trial procedures, and appeals. Slowly, he built a case for his own innocence, identifying where his public defender had failed him. After years of letters and petitions, the Innocence Project finally took on his case. In 2006, 8 years after his wrongful conviction, the Seventh Circuit Court of Appeals overturned his verdict, ruling that Adams had suffered from ineffective legal representation. In 2007, all charges were dismissed in a matter of minutes. But Adams didn't stop there. He walked out of prison determined to reclaim his life. He enrolled in college, earned his associate's and bachelor's degrees, then graduated from Loyola University Chicago School of Law. In a poetic twist of fate, he became a defense attorney. And today, he fights to exonerate the wrongfully convicted, including working for the same Innocence Project that once freed him. His story is a powerful reminder of how the justice system can fail, but also how resilience, knowledge, and relentless hope can turn even the darkest chapters into redemption. From inmate to advocate, Jarrett Adams is living proof that injustice can be fought and won. If you enjoyed this video, please give the channel a like and subscribe. Thank you so much.